Hello, everybody. Welcome to Innovation Roots studio. Today, I'm really happy to have Shane Hastie with us, who is Director of Community Development at IC Agile. Hi, Shane. Welcome to this discussion.
Hi, Nupur. Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege to be invited.
Shane, why don't you briefly introduce yourself and let us know a bit about yourself?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm currently the Director of Community Development for IC Agile. I've been with IC Agile now for 4 years and have been involved with them since almost from the beginning, from the founding of the organization. I was fortunate to be invited to contribute to some of the learning outcomes, particularly around the business value and product ownership stream at that stage when this was back in 2011. At that same time, I was doing quite a lot of work with the Agile Alliance and the IIBA, the International Institute for Business Analysis, and was, I hope, instrumental, but certainly influential in bringing some of those communities together. One of the initiatives that we worked on was the Agile extension to the business analysis body of knowledge, which was a joint publication of the IIBA and the Agile Alliance. I've been in and around the Agile community since probably 2002, 2003. I was really fortunate at that stage. I was working for SoftEd in New Zealand, and they used to run conferences. And in 2003, the conference brought people like Alistair Coburn, Jim Highsmith, Steve Miller, and various others uh, out to New Zealand and Australia to talk about this new thing that was Agile at that point. And I was incredibly lucky to actually sit down with some of the founding fathers, some of the original authors of the manifesto, and people like Johanna Rothman, who, while not at the Snowbird meeting, was certainly part of the influence community there, and Mary and Tom Poppendick and various others who brought these ideas, and I was able to learn from at the feet of the masters, so to speak, and really understand not just the mechanics but the intent. Had some wonderful conversations exploring what happened at Snowbird and why, what was the thinking behind it. And a lot of that, of course, has been written about over the years, but it was really great to find something that aligned so well with the way that I wanted to work. In 2000, I read the White Book, the extreme programming book. I was leading a software development team at that stage and was able to bring in the ideas of extreme programming. And it just worked. Strangely enough, it did do what it said on the box, so to speak. And so I'd been applying the ideas, and then I got to understand and learn more about it. I think I've been fairly influential in bringing these ideas, certainly through Australia and New Zealand. This was before Scrum was the big brand, but Scrum was certainly one of the brands that was spoken about at that stage, and certainly before IC Agile came around. But the ideas that became the foundation for IC Agile were certainly there right at the very, very beginning. And when IC Agile was launched, in my role at SoftEd, it just made sense for us to align with this approach. We really latched onto the mission of advancing the state of Agile learning, and I built and delivered many courses in the Agile space in my tenure at SoftEd. Prior to that, I had been a programmer, a software developer, and worked through most of the roles in that information technology space. For 10 years, ran my own business, a small consultancy doing back office software for small to medium sized airlines based in, we were based in South Africa and working all the way through Africa at that stage, as far north as Ghana and on the west coast and Tanzania on the east. So some interesting times.
Thank you so much, Shane, for sharing such amazing details about yourself from uh, participating along with the Agile signatories to being in different parts and then being in different roles as well. So thank you so much. And
My pleasure.
today, I think we'll be having amazing discussion on agile leadership and servant leadership. And beginning with
Mhm.
my first question, Shane, according to your experience, what are the new capabilities leaders need to build in the 21st century?
Whew. Well, in the IC Agile uh, leading with agility uh, learning outcomes, we've actually defined a fair amount of this. We've worked with global thought leaders who have come up with the competencies of leadership in the 21st century, and they're it's about stepping away from command and control, stepping away from being the person with the answers, and stepping into being the host leader, the supportive leader, the one who's there to remove obstacles. We employ really intelligent people who've got great knowledge and experience. And then we need to create an environment where they can be as effective as possible. And this is a big shift in leadership, because in 20th century leadership, most often the manager, the leader, was the one who knew the most. You'd come up through the ranks and you'd earned your stripes, and these were all the metaphors that were used. You got into that leadership position because you'd been doing this for so long, and you were the one who had all the answers. So, and you were answering questions for your team, and you were telling them how to do it. Today, in the complex world of the 21st century, no one individual can hold what is needed for even a small organization in their heads. We are dependent upon the value in today's economy is through the creative work of teams, and the leader's responsibility is to create an effective environment for that team to thrive, and for the people who make up that team. So teamwork and facilitation of teams. That's the key to modern leadership, and it changes the stance entirely from telling people what to do to creating clarity of vision and alignment, giving them a clear purpose, ensuring that whatever obstacles are there are removed as much as possible to enable them to go forward. Does that
All
make
right.
sense?
Yeah, completely. I agree with you. And then there's a connected question. My question is kind of a follow up to the question I've just asked. There are a couple of challenges every organization or individual faces when we talk about leading agile transformation. What are some unavoidable challenges which you think, if you are completely prepared, you have studied well, you have done the mindset change and everything, but there are still some unavoidable challenges you think will exist?
Jerry Weinberg put it well. Everything is a people problem. And if it's not a people problem, see point one. Everything is a people problem. it's the challenges are going to come through how one of the biggest mistakes I see is the imposition of agile. There's been an executive decision where somebody's read a Harvard Business Review article or a McKinsey report that says you've got to be agile. And they look at the practices, they look at the processes, they look at the frameworks and say, well, okay, go and apply this. And today you often see, well, we're now going to be in squads and tribes. Why? Because somebody saw a video by Henrik Knieberg that was made 8 years ago, 10 years ago, that spoke about how Spotify did it then and want some of that. But the reality is, your organization is not Spotify. What worked at Spotify 10 years ago will not work in your organization today. And just copying that model will not help, will not make the change, will not bring the organization along. So that imposition of agile is the most common mistake we see in agile transformations. How do we turn it into an invitation? How do we bring people on a journey together, and how do we co-create the agility that is needed in the organization? Frameworks may be useful. There are many different frameworks. Don't take any of them at face value. Take those, but look at them and take the best of the framework that is appropriate in your organization's context. Ivar Jakobsen talks about getting locked into a method prison. When you do take on a particular framework, a particular model, and you're following it religiously and rigidly, it actually prevents you from taking advantage of the other ideas that are out there. So Agile transformation is an ongoing journey that is never finished. And it is something that needs to be built within the organization. Yes, draw upon the experience and the knowledge of others. Bring in the external coaches, bring in, I don't want to say the consultants. I don't want a consulting mindset. The consultant tells you what to do. I want the coach, I want the mentor, I want the facilitator who says, here are some ideas. Here are some things that have worked in this context. Let's explore, will they work here with you? Most often, and this is a little bit of a personal bugbear, we see somebody come into an organization with the moniker, with the label Agile Coach plastered on their forehead. And they're not coaching. They are consulting. They are telling what to do. They're not co-creating. And often they have a particular model, framework, approach that they've become very comfortable with. They know it well. But that's the only tool in their tool belt. What I want are coaches who are curious, who work consciously with the organization, with the teams to co-create, so that we don't have a common set of practices in every team. That's a big mistake. Every team is doing different types of work. Every team is at different levels of maturity. So trying to, the mere concept of best practice is an anathema in Agile. Give the teams a toolkit, a wide toolkit to draw upon, and allow them to figure out what is the most effective approach in their context at this time, and give them the freedom to change, to adapt. Don't impose agility, invite agility.
That's
End
an
wrap.
amazing, yeah, that's an amazing thing which you have just said. Don't impose, invite agility. That's a beautiful thing I think we all should be able to understand and explore on. So, Shane, we hear this often that leaders should be servant leaders. So, why is it important for the managers to become servant leaders? What this kind of role entails?
I, I've become quite comfortable with the term host leader lately. Because for some people, servant leader sounds uncomfortable. But host leadership, if you think of going into somebody's home to a party, your host is there facilitating the event and making sure that everyone's needs are met and that everything is running smoothly. They're putting people together to have the right conversations. Well, you don't know so and so. You know, you two might find something in common. And I'm going as the host. I'm spending my time making sure that everyone else gets the most value from the time that they spend. So, in a host leadership perspective, that's what I'm doing. I'm making sure that everyone in my scope of control has whatever they need to be effective. And where there is a blockage, I'm removing it. Ideally, I'm removing it before they even noticed. So if I think of the host leader, the party host, oh, there's a problem in one of the bathrooms. I've cleaned it. I've made sure it's cleaned and sorted before anyone else notices it at all. I might have done it myself, or I've arranged for it to be done. I've got at my fingertips all of the resources that I need to make this environment as effective as possible for the people. And in that team environment, this is about enabling the team to stay in flow as much as possible so that they don't get disrupted. The employee experience, the developer experience. How can we remove the friction on the team so that they can be as productive and as effective as possible? Not efficient, effective. An efficient party is a boring one. An effective party is engaging and is fun. I want the effectiveness. So I can't remember who came up with the concept of host leadership. But if you Google it, you'll find that it wasn't me. But when I read about it, when I heard about it, it just resonated. Because I have hit situations where people get uncomfortable with the term servant leader. But if you think about what's intended by servant leadership, it is very much the same type of thing. It's creating an environment where others can be as effective as possible in order to achieve the organization's outcomes and goals. So as the host, I am setting the theme for the party. As the leader, I'm setting the goals. I'm defining the boundaries. That's my job. I'm not doing every little piece of work. I'm not supervising every little piece of work. I'm being conscious. I'm keeping an eye on the whole system and facilitating that whole system to be effective. So if I can think of working with my team as facilitating that party and making sure that the theme that I have chosen for the party is one that people are successful in, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, you have explained it very beautifully, and I learned a new thing called host leadership, and I'm definitely going to read about it more and change. And as we're talking about different types of leaderships, what do you think are the characteristics of a intent-based leadership?
David Marquet um, came up with this, and if you haven't seen his YouTube videos, it's really worth exploring. So the concept of intent-based leadership, and it fits well with the host leadership style, is don't tell people what to do, don't micromanage them, but give them the space to make decisions, and then if needed, rather than letting them come to you and ask for permission, let them come to you and say, this is my intent. I plan to do this, this, and this. Is there any reason for me not to? As opposed to, please, ma'am, can I do this? So turn that around. And Management 3.0 has got a lovely tool for the decision poker cards, for um, thinking about the levels of delegation between a leader and their team. How much of what type of decision can be made by people, and this again fits nicely with that intent-based approach. And I have a bias towards more putting as much of the decision authority in the hands of the people who are as close to the problem, as close to the issue, who are doing the work as possible. And intent-based leadership supports that, and the delegation styles from Management 3.0 certainly support that. It's those, how do we put the decision authority as close to the point where the decision is needed as possible? Is the people at the coalface are the ones who are the best suited to make those decisions.
So we have been speaking, Shane, about what is this leadership, that leadership, and what is the leader characteristics of leadership. But in an agile environment, what a leader is not.
Well, first of all, a leader is not the smartest person in the room. The leader is not the one who's uh, impressing everyone with their skill and knowledge. I, as a leader, have to be able to say, you know what, I don't know. But that's fine, because I have Mary on my team, and Mary knows that, so I can trust that Mary will do the right thing. I don't need to know how to do that. So one of the things that a leader is not is that the expert in every aspect. They need to know enough of the domain to be able to provide effective guidance. I would say you can't come in as a leader with no domain expertise and knowledge and suddenly step into any space. There is credibility in domain expertise, but it doesn't have to be you. When you're moved into a leadership position, you are not doing the doing, you are viewing the doing, and you're again, you're looking at the whole system. The other thing a leader is not is command and control. I'm not defining tasks and allocating work. I'm defining outcomes and letting people self-organize. And I'm not taking credit. I am taking blame. If things go well, my team did it. If something's wrong, I will hold this. And we as a team will figure out what happened. But I'm never, it was him.
Sure. So, Shane, we are talking some wonderful things and some wonderful aspects of leadership. And I would like to know your tip to create a learning organization which eventually creates leaders.
Be curious. Be an information sponge, a knowledge sponge. Never stop being curious. And allow people the time to be curious. One of the mistakes that we make constantly in organizations is we look for effectiveness. We want people, sorry, not effectiveness, efficiency. We want people to be, you're employed for 8 hours a day. I want to see 8 hours and 10 minutes worth of work. No. Cut them some slack. There's a great book, in fact, called just that. It's by Tom DeMarco. It's called Slack. Getting past busy work. It's creating space in the system for learning to happen. We've heard of 20% time. Whatever the percentage is, almost doesn't matter, but there needs to be space in the system for people to think about the work that they're doing, not just do the work, and to think about the way that they work, and to think about how they can improve the way that they work, to think about how they can find out new things to get better. And this is the mastery. If we look at motivation theories and Dan Pink's work, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Well, the learning organization encourages mastery. Get better. So give us the space, give us the time to get better. And what we will see is a steady productivity climb in the organization.
Mhm.
So that, giving people the time, building the slack into the system, and encourage curiosity.
Yeah, I think curiosity is the key for an individual and organizations also to not just keep learning but to innovate as well. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Shane, my last question to you, and I would like to know one question that you think I must ask you.
Oh, oh, all right. Let's go back to agile coaching. Why do so many people complete a coach training, 21 hours of training in the IC Agile world? The ICP ACC, a really powerful certification, great learning for the beginning of a coaching journey. Having completed any of the coach training, you are not a coach. You're at the beginning of a coaching journey. Please take the time to go and build those muscles, to practice your coaching competencies, to build them up. Don't call yourself a coach until you have experience, not just knowledge, but built that deep experience. We call it in IC Agile, we call it the certification in Agile coaching. Very deliberate. You are not a coach. You are learning about Agile coaching. And even at the more advanced level, the certified expert, it's still in Agile coaching. Coaching is the practice, and it takes a lot of practice. And as a coach, you'll never finish practicing. So, yeah, please, though, and when you're employing people who call themselves coaches, don't just look at the certification. Look at their experience and knowledge. Talk to the people that they have coached, and hear, are they right for your organization?
Thank you, Shane. That was a wonderful insight that you have shared, and good that I have kept that question so that we covered this beautiful question of you as well. Thank you so much for being with me on this interview, and I thoroughly enjoyed discussing about leadership, various aspects of leadership, the servant or host leadership, intent-based leadership, what generally a leader is not or should not be, and the importance of being curious, and most importantly, being certified in agile coaching does not mean you're an agile coach. You have to work through it. It's just the beginning. So thank you so much, Shay. It was wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to talk with you.